I were an 80s parent, I'd be old.
Yeah, but Ebony, respectfully, like you have like an elder's like point of view about things. You
so
know what I mean?
So I was basically would have been old as an infant.
You're you know your gender that should be amplified is like church elder. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like you they encounter your
old soul, not old.
But it's specific, bro. It's a Southern church elder in like a very young, cool person's body.
Okay, fabulous. Listen, welcome. You started. I'm here. We're here. I'm here. Yo, listen. The world does not need another podcast. Alas.
Here we are.
Yeah. Alas, here we are. The Gender Amplified podcast,
Ma'am.
called Sticky.
Sticky.
Because we're going to talk about glue the whole time. No, we're not. We're going to talk about stickers the whole time. No, we're not. We're going to talk about faith. Sticky. Stick-to-itiveness. Right?
I thought you were gonna have like choruses. When I saw the sticky, I was like, sticky, like I thought it was a music.
I think in future episodes we're going to get into a bit of that. But for now, sticky is short for stick-to-itiveness. What causes a person to have faith or the belief, especially in music, that they can actually make it? The likelihood of making it in music is so rare. It would be more feasible to have $1 million career on Wall Street than win a Grammy. And that's just the reality of it. And yet, there are so many people with stick-to-itiveness. There are so many folks in the music business who said, I'm just gonna get there. So there's an element of faith to that. And the question that we'll be asking guests on this podcast is, what does that faith look like for you? What causes you to actually think that in your wildest dreams, you could actualize a career in music? One that is lucrative, one that pays your bills, and one that hopefully makes you happy for generations makes you happy and makes generations to come very happy from your art and from your work. So this is episode number 1. My name is Ebony Smith. I am the founder and president of Gender Amplified. We are a nonprofit organization that fosters the development of women and gender expansive music producers in audio engineering and audio production, which, as you may know, there are not a ton of women in this field or gender expansive producers in this field. So our job is to amplify their work through our mission and through the organization's programs, including the Control Room series, which is the camp series that focuses on women and gender expansive producers in the studios, helping them connect with artists, helping them make inroads into the business, and also helping them stick to it. Because so much of what we do is wanting to engender a sense of faith, a sense of self-confidence, and a sense of motivation to believe that you could be there 1 in a million. So without further ado, we have some guests here today. I'm kind of cheating because they're friends of mine. Welcome to the show.
Yes.
Welcome to the show, Chris Gabo and Jess Furman, y'all.
What's going on?
Thank you.
Hi, Jess. Also.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Ebony. Individually.
Right. Yo, you know what I'm saying?
Hi, God. Hi, Josh. Hi, Adrian.
Yeah, everybody. Josh, Adrian. Listen, I'm thankful for you both for being here, for like literally just taking a chance on this sight unseen.
Yo, nothing that with you is taking a chance.
Sight unseen.
Yeah,
well,
agree.
God bless you, and I appreciate
That's true.
that. I got to do introductions because it's the appropriate thing to do. I want y'all to know why these two individuals are here and why they're important and why we want to hear what they have to say, particularly about stick-to-itiveness and particularly about faith. So Chris Gabo is an award-winning playwright from Yale Drama School. Is also a screenwriter in the world of movies, in the world of television, with credits on Mo, with credits on In Treatment. He wrote all the episodes for Anthony Ramos's episodes on In Treatment, has recently sold a movie to 101 Studios and has also sold movies to MGM Studios, and is, in addition to all this, I really don't know where he finds the time, but in addition to all of this, he's a rap artist and is actually one of the artists that I produce.
Yo, that's the coolest credit.
And
has worked with such producers as Ebony Smith.
Yeah, I think I got all that right.
I appreciate that.
And I want to also introduce Jess Furman, who is an Emmy Award nominated music producer and executive producer working on Book of Queer, which is an Emmy Award nominated drama series, miniseries, episodic series that is pretty much taking the world by storm. In addition to Jess's work in music, there's also her advocacy work in the space of blockchain, new tech, especially for women and gender expansive creatives, non-binary creatives, and the work that you've been doing domestically, but also internationally in those spaces at various hackathons all across the world, where you're a champion hackathoner.
Yes.
And you
I gotta hear more about that. I don't know if it's for the podcast, but I want to know.
Champion in the hackathon space, which is basically the process of creating new systems and new programs for Web3, for blockchain, and teaching artists how they can utilize those spaces to actualize their dreams, but also to make money and to build audiences, and teaching them how to build treasuries around what they're doing and economies around what they're doing. So you are a creative as well as a tech entrepreneur, and you've started and founded many companies. So we want to talk about all that good stuff. But before we get into all that and all the particulars, I want to talk to both of you about your creative origin stories. Like, where does it all start for you? And I'll start with you, Chris, and then you hand it to Jess.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I just want to say I'm very grateful to be here with you, Ebony, and with you, Jess, and I might need your number later. Creative economies, I need some of that. But origin story. I'm from Tampa, Florida. I started out. It's so funny that like my bio is like all this Hollywood shit and then the rap stuff, because it's just like I came from music. You know what I mean? Like I was touring and shit when I was like 16. You know what I mean? I was also in bands. And like so I came out of that scene, and then I was writing these plays on tour because I had all this time. Because rap tour, it was just like kind of you're by yourself. And when I got to the end of high school, and it was like, oh, okay. Like my parents were the first people in their families to go to college. They're, immigrated from Colombia, and they became a doctor and a lawyer. And they were like, great, you guys do that too. And me and my sister were like, nah. And they were like, please, Jesus Christ, can you go to like a college for something? And I was writing these plays and it's so funny because just both of these things are not like lucrative on their face when you say them out loud, but like the rap thing felt like a career and the playwriting thing felt like a hobby. And then I was like, well, I want to be in New York, and NYU had a dramatic writing program. And I was like, I'll apply for that. And then I got into that. And then that was how I ended up in New York. And then then this became a career, but like, that's kind of the shortest way to, talk about that. And, but I've been doing everything simultaneously, you know what I mean? Like, and the cool part was like, when we would play these rap shows in Ybor City, for anyone who's from Tampa, Florida knows Ybor City, you know what I mean? Like we play those shows, and then there was it was a Silver Meteor Gallery. It was called, it was a theater that was right across the literal train tracks, and we would produce plays there. So like all the kids would come to the rap shows, would come to the plays, and then all those kids would go to the skate park on the other days, you know what I mean? So that, is that enough or too much or too little?
No, it's perfect, bro. Jess.
Great. We're also both NYU kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What program?
I did a College of Arts and Sciences.
Oh, wow. Actual smart. I was a Tisch.
Too.
Well, I was not allowed to study music or art, so I have a politics degree, which now actually factors into what I do with blockchain, because like a lot of what I was focused on was social contract theory and how we go from being apolitical to political. So like a lot of the blockchain ethos of DAOs and how you can create these sub-economies. Decentralized autonomous organization.
I thought you were saying DAW earlier. Okay. Got it.
Contextually.
The other acronym that
Well, I mean, it's like
important to musicians.
That's good. Keep asking, because I want to.
I will.
I'm steadily becoming more.
I know
accessible.
Ebony's the host, but I'm going to ask.
Yes, please
no. I mean, please jump in, because I think it's important, a really important through point for you to talk about your creative origin stories, because you just talked about it a little bit, but how do we get the Jess Furman of 2025? Like how creatively, what was that journey, and how does the political and the academic
kind of
flow into that?
So for me, I had a little bit of a tough childhood, and so for me, sitting at a keyboard was just the way that I survived a lot of that, and I couldn't verbalize how I felt, but I would sit down at a keyboard and I'd play, and I would hear it, and I'd be like, it was like self-soothing, like that would, whatever I was playing, I was like, that's it, like that's the thing I can't name. So I started playing because of those things, and then I picked up a guitar because my neighbor couldn't. We were like in a band when we were kids.
What was it called? I'll tell
there
you
was
mine.
no band yet. What was your band name? What was your?
The first band name was the Dirty. And then we played then Muted Revolution. Yeah.
Amazing.
It was me and two Mexican guys, and it was fun. We were in middle school.
Yes.
I'm not touching that. I'm like
You
with
can
the
say whatever.
N-word. I'm like, I don't even know that. I don't even know that word.
I thought we were cool. And then Muted Revolution was our second band. So you need to tell me your first two band names.
So like we didn't even get that far because I didn't realize that writing was a skill set. So I would get really frustrated with my neighbor, and we were like in like, I think elementary school or something.
Oh, you beat me.
And I picked up a guitar to show him because he was taking guitar lessons. And I'm like, can't you make things up? And he was like, no, I need you to. So I would write out the pictures of that I wanted him to put his fingers on the guitar.
Snap.
And I actually just started playing myself. Like I got, better. And so for me, like music was like just how I survived my childhood and how I like made sense of the world. And when I was in college, I wanted to go to music school. My parents were not thrilled about this prospect either. They were, they weren't creative in that sense. So they were like, absolutely not. Like you could go to art school or study anything else. And I was playing in my dorm room.
They would let you go for art?
Yes,
like
that's the weird part. It's like we went to design
crazy.
school. Like they could understand that part of it. But I was in college playing in my dorm room, and I went to Albany for the first 2 years to save up enough money to afford NYU for the last 2 years. And I was in my dorm room playing, and just this guy knocks on the door, and he's like the RA, and he's like, why aren't you playing the Battle of the Bands? And I'm like, first of all, I'm not
Battle
a band.
of the Bands.
Literally. And I'm like, playing acoustic guitar. I'm like, well, I'm not a band. He goes, no, it's an acoustic night. Like you should be playing it. And I just didn't know how good I was. Like I just would play for my friends, and I'd play because I loved it. And like,
Beautiful.
I just hadn't realized, what level I was at. And it was really interesting because he was the first person so I ended up going upstairs and playing, and I won it. And I was just shocked because I didn't, I was just sitting in my room playing for my friends, or like they'd give me lyrics or they'd tell me what's happening with their life, and I would, help them out. So, but that's how I started. And then I started landing deals basically just from playing, he put me in like rooms and put me in a recording studio and like, but I didn't know.
How old were you then?
I was in college. And so
okay.
I when I moved down to New York, I started playing like, clubs basically. And, my parents got their degree. Like I put it, it was on their wall. I'm like, here's my politics
I don't
degree.
have my degree. I don't know where it's at. I don't have the diploma.
I have it. I gave it to my parents.
Yeah,
and then I went right back to playing clubs in the city and bartending. And so that was my kind of entree into it. And I think a lot of the advocacy stuff that I do is also like, I didn't go to music school. So like I had to kind of like muscle my way in, and I made a ton of mistakes, and I signed a lot of really bad deals. And because I was so analytical, like I would read my contracts and I would question, like beautiful. I didn't know how it was supposed to work. So a lot of where I came up, like, and where I am now with a lot of the advocacy stuff I do is making sure that other people don't have those same issues.
What's the worst deal you ever signed?
Oh my God, let me count the ways. Like that first manager of mine bought my domain names out from under me, and he tried to extort a few years later. Like he owned like JessFurman.com. No, I kid you not.
That
and
sucks.
I like was paying him for years and like begging him for my name back. So that's like one. And he meant well. Like he was like, no, I just invested in you back then, and I'm gonna get my payday one day because I believe in you. But I was like, we haven't worked together in like 5 years, and I keep cutting you checks for like my own domain.
That's super whack.
So deals like that, or other ones where like they just try to lock you up, or own like, everything you're doing. And so like, I never signed to any majors, but I did have some bad independent deals that I had really good attorneys help me get out of. And I've just gone indie all the way since then,
Yeah.
I once signed with a booking agent who got scurvy on tour because he didn't eat anything but like cheese out of a can.
What's
And
scurvy?
Scurvy is what pirates get when they don't eat vegetables.
I thought scurvy was like skirt, like skirt.
No. And then we went on tour, and then he was like in Georgia. He was like, I'm out of money. And I was like, I live in Florida. He was like, oh, and I had to hitchhike home.
Wow.
And that was the worst.
I think that speaks to why gender amplified exists, right? I feel like, and I talk about this all the time. Like, I feel like sometimes, young men just get kind of thrown out into the air. If you survive,
Factual.
congratulations.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Girls, so much of it kind of goes back to the faith, like stick-to-itiveness, is that throwing you out into the whatever, ether.
Yeah.
Like when you are going at it as a young person, particularly a young girl or a young person of gender expansive experience, and not really knowing how to find resources and what's sketchy and what's not sketchy.
Yeah.
Like in terms of your experience, like developing as an artist, what kept you going? Like when because what I'm hearing from your story is that you hit a roadblock and then another roadblock and you made a lot of mistakes, but you kept going and you still made it to the Emmy nominated music producer stage. So what does faith look like within the context of that? Like what kept you motivated?
I think like, and I used to talk about this with my parents all the time because they would just be pulling their hair out while I was like touring and sleeping on couches or just trying to make it work and just being poor and working 3 jobs or like just so I could show up at a studio and shadow someone else. And I think the faith part is, it has to just be a calling. Yeah. Like, I think like, and I used to say this to my parents where I'm like, if I could have chosen anything else, I would have, like I have a degree from a good school. Like I understand why they would be frustrated, but like, you don't choose this. It's something that you just feel this need to communicate. And then I think the other part of the faith is like what kept me going, at a lot of those times where I'm like bartending and just broke or like, and also just, you are like, they're piranhas in the industry. So like, it took me a while to find my tribe and to really understand and get my footing because a lot of people would see dollar signs and you're scared because you're working 3 jobs, you're bartending, you don't know a lot about the industry. And so like you do tend to find that first layer of people who like get so excited, but then they get their, try to get their hooks in you. And I think for me, like, this is going to sound cheesy, but like, when you connect to someone, like, when you're on stage and you're singing and you connect to someone.
It's not cheesy at all.
Like you feel it. And like, and I think that's the thing for me that always kept me going was like, you could, people would have their reservations about hiring a female producer or, their biases, but like they would sit in a room and they would listen if they connected enough to it. So I think for me, it was like that, and it is about the music, but it's also just about this thing that seems to transcend people's biases. You make them feel something, right? Or you like write with another artist and you hit that lyric. So I think for me, that's always like been that faith is like coming from where I did as a kid and feeling disconnected and feeling like I didn't have anything to rely on and realizing that this connection to music and creating, it's this unspoken thing. It's this extra layer, right? Above the ways that we build ourselves up and the conversations that we have with each other. And so I think that was it, is like a compulsion, just being like, this is...
Can't stop, won't stop.
Like it's just, and that is that faith, right? It's like deep rooted faith, but again, in those moments where you're like, I hit a wall or I want to give up, like if it is that much of a calling, like you can't give up. You can't give up on it. Like there isn't another thing to do, it's not a choice to begin with, so.
Right. I love that. So just the concept of what else is there. Like there's, if I'm not doing this, what am I doing type of thing. And it's this deep drive toward purpose.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Chris, because you practice Islam. And as a Muslim, we have our interfaith dialogue as well as...
Yeah, it's a deep interfaith friendship, bro.
With me being Christian and with you being...
I grew up Catholic, so I know a lot. I know a lot about the guy.
Word, he's dope. But this is the thing. How does your faith factor into your work? How do you find it integrates itself?
Like now?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
or just in general.
I mean, look, I grew up Catholic and sort of became disillusioned with that, right? But I always loved Jesus a lot. And, Jesus is a prophet in the Quran. So like I got to retain that, and there was years where I was atheist and agnostic and I kind of like, was very mad at God, you know what I'm saying? And during those years, I never stopped praying because I never stopped being grateful because I eat like 30 times a day and motherfuckers don't, you know what I'm saying? So like that stayed the same. And then when I converted to Islam, I literally like, this is kind of a whatever story, but it's true. It's that like the first time I prayed as a Muslim after I took the Shahada, I was like, I remember God being like, welcome back. It's the same shit. You know what I mean? I remember being like, there was nothing different. And again, like even when I was agnostic, even when I was atheist, like the gratitude is secular to me and also universal because it's just like to not have gratitude would feel sacrilegious to me. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're like being given so much. And so to me, I guess how it relates to the work on a fundamental level is just that like, I'm grateful to be here at all times. You know what I'm saying? I understand that life is a gift and life is short and it's taken from everybody all the time and it has not been taken from me yet. You know what I mean? In the scheme of things as a human being, I'm 34 years old. Jesus died before then. Do you know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers really die before then. So I'm like old in a way. So everything is the time. When you say like, where do you find the time to do certain stuff? I'm like, I find the time because I honor the time. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know, like I don't know that I'm making like a direct correlation to Islam in that moment when I'm talking about that, but to me, like there's just certain fundamental things that I've always felt like they need to be there for my foundation to feel solid. And, you know, faith is an expression of that. And it's also an interpretation of the divine. You know what I'm saying?
Amazing.
It's beautiful.
So I guess I would piggyback on that by asking you, when it comes to your multi-hyphenate career, you know, and how you find the desire and the need to produce your own music, and also the desire and the need to tie it back into Gender Amplified, the desire and the need to collaborate with women in production, and this concept of allyship that you embody without necessarily waving a flag, you know. How does faith inform that?
It's interesting. Well, first of all, I appreciate you saying that, you know what I mean? And it's like this idea of like allyship without flying the flag. It's like, look, you either want to work with other people or you don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that we kind of like, we're sort of now living in this sort of reaction to like 2016, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we're kind of in this cycle where like there's a lot of backlash to the things that happened in that time. And I think that the people who are having those reactionary points of views, the reason why is because they felt like there was a certain time where you had to say certain things and do certain things, but it wasn't coming from a sincere place.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why these people have like an ideological backlash that's cyclical, right? But I mean, for me and my friends, it's like we were on that since the beginning. You know what I'm saying?
Forever, yeah.
So it doesn't feel like a thing that has to be underlined necessarily.
Right.
And frankly, you know what I mean? Like our collaboration, I was very grateful for it because it came organically, came through, through a man, shout out Dave Kutch, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, you know, it just, I mean, in hip hop, especially, like all my engineers have been men. Most of my engineers have been white dudes, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? Like white dudes kind of like took over hip hop, especially on that end of it. Do you know what I'm saying? So like our shit is like, and yes, you can be like, our friendship, you know, does have gender at play, does have all this stuff at play. But also like the first thing that I gravitated to you with you was I was like, you're from the South. I'm from the South. You're from Memphis. I'm from Florida. You know what I'm saying? So there's certain things that like don't have to be explained sonically. There's certain things where your connection to that heritage is deeper. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right,
so like
right.
it even like the gender thing to me, I guess the way it comes up is that I think this all the time. I used to think this when I was like in certain studios back in the day, especially in New York, where I was like, and I'm not like squeaky clean, wholesome raps guy, but I would look at certain things and I'd be like, would you say that if there was a woman in the room? It's just, you still might.
Yeah.
I still say tons of shit on the record and go, Ebony, is she gonna yell at me? You know what I mean? But it is like just, I think it's a consideration, and your comfort level is based on who's there.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes our records. I mean, there was so much time that like, and I've told this to you, where like I was like nervous to bring you these raps because I was like, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Young church lady, is she gonna be like, get out of here with this shit, right? And so like, and I felt like once I was able to like be myself and be funny and bring these, you know, raunchy sex rap to the studio, and everybody was like, cool, let's do another take. I was like, oh, okay, now we can, because I think that like oftentimes when we're talking about, I don't know, sort of like political allyship across gender lines and stuff, it's sometimes becomes synonymous with music that's like not that good.
Not
And
that good.
you can speak on that with the way the Gender Amplified has been perceived, you know, incorrectly and maligned, right? Whereas like, to me, it's like our friendship, the music has to come out of a relationship. You know, all the great producer artist relationships are around a real friendship. And so like that's, and yes, we are bringing our gender stuff, we're bringing our race stuff, we're bringing everything to that room. But the first thing is just the like fundamental human shit. You know what I mean? And we have that. And also taste.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's interesting you say like, you know, as much as like in the beginning where you're like, I'm thinking about the talent and the things we have in common, and I'm thinking less about gender. But then, you know, identity is also hard to get around when, because it's not, you know, there's topics you're covering where you're like, oh, you know, church going, is this going to be offensive? But like, it could be anything. It could be race. It could be, you know, where you grew up. And I think, you know, I will say about allyship, like there are so many guys who held doors open for me and like did not especially when I transitioned from doing more of the artist thing into the producing and the songwriting and like being taken seriously as a female producer and someone that had a studio, like I was the only woman in 2 floors of all touring male musicians, and like to have them endorse me and bring me in was a really big deal because people weren't hiring women producers really as much back then, or they had the stigma, or they would tell me time and time again, oh, when I want someone to play a ukulele or a cute little guitar part, I'll call you. Like
I'll call you when we need someone to whistle.
Pretty much. They're like, you could be the whistler. But no, I mean, allyship, like it's such it's an endorsement. And I think about that a lot, even in the reverse. Like we do have these biases, but like the fact that, you would bring these jokes and like, Ebony would just, all right, cool, next take. That sounds great. Like, I think that it's dispelling that myth, right? Of that, and identity is important, but, I think especially in a creative field, like thinking people can't do certain things because of the color of their skin or their gender, or where they grew up. Like, it's something that you would think wouldn't exist as much, I think, in the industry side that we're part of, because we are creative and there isn't a lot of allowance, but it still does exist. And allyship is so important for like confidence and endorsement, but also, you show other people, that you had this experience, and then they start to like peel away at their own biases, about what that experience would be like.
Right. No, I agree 1,000% with this idea of allyship is not performative when it is just sincere and genuine. When you're looking for people of shared likeness, shared ethnicity, even shared background, shared taste. Like there's something that seems to dissipate when it comes to our stereotypes, when we're looking for certain qualities, looking really for the qualities versus looking for the characteristics, if that makes sense, looking for the external characteristics and markers that are supposed to automatically come with those characteristics.
Yeah.
Right. So I think you said something, Jess, that I want to go back to, which is the importance of the allies in your life who held doors open for you. And now you are in turn in a position where you can do advocacy work.
Yeah.
You worked a lot with SONA and were instrumental in helping songwriters during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and how that is contributing to what you're doing now with decentralized spaces online?
Yeah, so I was part of SONA, the Songwriters of North America, during the time that I was on their board when we helped pass the Music Modernization Act. And it was the first meaningful change to copyright law in over, I think it was like 100+ years.
Jesus.
It was just like kind of like the little engine that could. It was like a bunch of songwriters that got together in a kitchen, and I got invited in with them, and
in
LA, yeah. And it was like David and Goliath moment,
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, maybe coming up from being scrappy and not having studied music and having to like know what it feels like to love something so much and be an outsider, and how important it is to have allyship with just people that can be your mentors around what you do. I think, for me, that was something that was really important. And when the pandemic hit, tours were being canceled, studio sessions were being canceled. And, I did have my own production company at that point, and I did have, I wasn't relying on touring really anymore. And I had a lot more stability than a lot of my friends who, couldn't go out on the road anymore and were really scared. So we ended up launching a grant fund, and I think we raised over $500,000.
Yeah.
And we
That's
gave
awesome.
out like, hardship grants to, different musicians, and they had, they had to like apply for it, but, it worked out to be like maybe 500 or 1,000 a person, but like, so it's like you want to be able to do more, but also like part of it is being seen. And like we would read these applications and because we had to make sure they hit certain markers for the foundation and the nonprofit part, and like qualifying for financial hardship. And so your heart would break. Like you'd read people just like, I don't know what I'm going to do next month, or, so I think the other part is like knowing that every little bit does help. And I think that also helps me like, and when I've like forayed into the tech side, and the thing that I'm trying to build is like, sometimes someone just getting that $500.
Dude, $500
like,
could save your life.
It could save your life, but it also reminds you that people care and you're not alone. And I think that that's the part where people get paralyzed, and that they think, I think it's easy to look around and have that fatigue, right? Like when you care and you have empathy and you want to help people, it's easy to be like, how could I possibly make a difference, right? And this does get back to that faith part, right? And so like, oftentimes just being acknowledged, like someone cared enough to start a fund, someone cared enough, they read your application, they sent you a check in the mail, you know, like that you're no longer by yourself on that island, you know, and maybe that 500 like gets you through a month or a week or maybe more if you live in a cheaper area than Los Angeles or New York. But it's also just knowing
LA
that
will get you on the train, but you know,
pretty much, right?
Not back though.
That's why I'm like 500 doesn't go very far in Los Angeles, but what probably, and well, actually I would say what definitely goes far, and I don't know if you guys feel this way, but when you're getting into music and you hear 99% no's, right? The one yes or the one compliment or the one person you touch with your music, that like for me would float me an extra 6 to 8 months. And you just needed that one genuine connection, right? In the face of no, rejected, no, you didn't land that showcase, no, they didn't cut your track, you know, like all of this stuff. So I think like for me, moving through the world, like and this goes back to what you said about gratitude. I think for me, like coming from that place of gratitude where people did lift me up or people didn't, and now I'm in a position where I don't have to pay forward that same thing, right? So I think like, you know, to your point with what you asked was like, there was a lot of gatekeeping when I was coming up, and there weren't a lot of other women that were, you know, in the positions that I wanted to be, whether it was, you know, producing music, whether it was like even on the executive side. When I started building up my company, I didn't see a lot of other women doing that. And it was not competing with other people for space, but figuring out how to open that door for other people. And, you know, when it comes to emerging technology, what really excited me about learning about blockchain and Web3 was that I kind of just, I got the technology and I looked at it and I was like, you know, these hackathons, for example, right?
What is a hackathon?
Okay.
Can you tell me? Because
So the coolest thing for me about a hackathon, so basically, and this blew my mind, right? Because we're all creatives, right? So you go into a writing session and maybe you've been paired by your management, or maybe someone's like, you guys should write together. And like, you just show up and you know you're going to create, right?
Yeah,
like you're like, this is just, I've created space. We're just going to see what happens, right? The hackathons are the same thing. You have these, like I would never think that we're like computer developers because it seems like it's so straight laced, but you have these people that show up at hackathons. They don't really know very many people, just like musicians, kind of socially awkward, right? Used to being alone and like playing with your stuff. I wouldn't say you're socially awkward. I would say you're on the other end of, you know, but like, you know, there's a certain type of personality type that will sit there and like keep hitting the button, right, on a keyboard, whether it's a computer keyboard till they get it right, or it's a guitar where you're like, are you going to listen until like, you're like, oh, that sound, you know, I can get the distortion just a little bit. It takes a very special person of that level, right?
Patience, the amount of patience
and precision and focus. So these hackathons are really interesting because they're just like us. Like they show up and they want to build something and they want to be challenged, and you walk around and you like, hey, what are you working on? What are you working on? And like sometimes a group forms and then you have 36 hours to build something. And then you build it and then you present it. So like I've done hackathons in like Amsterdam, Bogota, Istanbul,
Shout out Colombia.
in Turkey. Colombia's amazing. But like you just build something out of nothing. And so I think for me also going into that space, I landed a scholarship with a women organization that was helping to educate women and non-binary into the space. And it meant a lot to be able to go to these cities and have a group of women with me, because it is a bunch of men. And it's, you know, crypto culture can be like very bro-y, but also like you want to feel like you have a crowd when you're going out at night. You want to feel like you have people around you. So
that's very, very important.
Really important, you know.
Element,
yeah, and the visual aspect of like when I ended up getting the scholarship, about a couple months later, they asked me to join in a little bit more of a formal capacity with this organization. And what was really cool about that was we started setting up. So we would go and we do these hackathons, which were really fun and nerdy. But we also started setting up side events and stages where we would have women speakers so that women could walk into a conference and like, you know, there are all these talks happening at the same time, but there'd be a dedicated stage where they could see women developers, entrepreneurs, VCs, and like just see themselves, you know, in that thing. And again, tying it back to SONA, like sometimes it's just about like being seen and knowing that someone's thinking about you, right? That like you can reach out in the world and a stranger is going to send you $500, or you walk into a conference and you're feeling overwhelmed and you see a woman speaking on stage and you identify, you know, in that capacity. So,
yo, you're amazing. I know we just met, but like, goddamn.
The level of expertise, first of all, just the level of commitment to certain communities, and just the consistency over time. You know, I mean, I think it speaks to the theme, like, but you embody that. It speaks to the theme of faith. It speaks to the theme of being able to stick to things. But you really embody this concept of gender amplified, right?
Yeah.
By just being you.
Yeah,
just
thank
being
you.
you and like showing up in spaces where you may not be largely represented in terms of your phenotype, in terms of your demographic that you come from and that you represent, but willing to not only just be there, but to open doors, because so often folks are fine to just be there
Yeah.
solo. And it's actually comforting to be the only woman in the room for some women.
Yeah.
But can you speak a little bit to this conversation of why you feel it's important to hold the door open? And not just for women, but for artists in general. To show and to indoctrinate, to share your knowledge base, to help other artists build tools that can help them have long careers, or at least just to help them make it through a pandemic, or help them make it through the month. Like what is helping to motivate you in that regard?
Yeah, I read through the questions you'd given, and I like, because I wasn't raised with any religion, and I think
Westchester was a godless place.
somewhat, but no, I think like when I was a kid, like I said, like things were pretty rough, and like I would go outside and I would like, hear the wind going through the trees, and I would, I'd see a bird, or I'd see like, and I knew that like I could feel life around me, right, and I could feel like when there was positive energy and there's negative energy. And I think I'm lucky, like I was always born like a very positive kid, so I had something to go back to. But, the holding the door thing for me, it's like, I think I know what it's like to not feel supported at certain points. And I also think like one of my spidey strengths like is like, and it's also my ideology, where like, for me, like my spirituality is like, I want to leave this place and know that whatever life force I have in me, when it's not powering up my body, that it goes back out into the world, and that this is predominantly a positive thing.
Right.
And so I think like that's what I think about, right? So like it's not enough for me to get something for me. Like I want to amplify it. I want to share it, and like that's just kind of my mission and how I orient, which is like how, like when I leave this world. So like, at first it's like survival.
Don't leave. Don't ever
I'm not ready. Not ready yet, but like,
no, don't do it.
but well, as a kid, it was like survival, right? And then I started to get some sea legs under me, and then I'm like, could see that people were kind of following me in certain ways, right? And so then it's like, how do I have a positive impact? And then I think being older now and being established, holding that door open, it's like, what excites me is like, how do I inspire other people to turn around in their lives and to do those things? So like, if I can give people scholarships, if I can help educate them, if I can build ecosystems, so that like for me right now with technology, I'm really focused on how do I support creators in a way that they take sovereignty and agency over their career, and that they're able to communicate with their fans and with investors and with, like their art in a way that allows for them to have a career. So I think that that's the amplification part, right? Like now that I'm sovereign and I'm okay and I'm safe and I'm older and I'm established, like, how do I amplify that goodness in the world, and how do I give other people agency to be able to make that positive ripple effect? Because you feel it, when you walk into a room with someone with good energy, when you walk into a room with someone and it's like a cold wind goes through, and you're kind of like,
right.
Yes. And maybe you're like, okay, maybe they're shy, or maybe I just need to unfreeze them a little bit.
Maybe they're the devil. Have you considered that?
Or they could just be like, stay away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that is a thing. I've had to learn that actually. Like, some people just let them be over there.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
I love what you're saying, because it takes me back to something my mother used to tell me growing up, which was, she used to say, if you go in the kitchen and cook, I should not know you're in there, right?
What does that mean?
I'm about to explain.
Oh, sorry.
So
you're the host.
she would say, like, if you go in the kitchen and you cook something, I should not know you've been in the kitchen, which means leave it clean and leave it in a better condition than you found it. And if there's some dishes in there, clean them. Like, don't leave them in there, or just like clean your dishes and leave the other. It's like, dude, if you're going in the kitchen to cook, just leave it in a better condition than you found it.
Yeah.
And I hear you saying that about your life, and I certainly say that about my life. I think that I am here to leave everything that I touch in a better condition than what I found it in. And if I can do that, then I think that's time well spent here.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because I guess we're all kind of holding each other's hands into the next generation. And what the world that we have is the byproduct of that hand holding, right?
Yeah.
That transition from generation to generation. And what we've left, what we will leave, and what has been left for us, there's so much good that we've been able to build on. And there's so much knowledge that we've sacrificed, so much knowledge that we've built and will pass on. But I think that's kind of the nexus and the goal. And when I think about Gender Amplified, I think about it in very much so the same way. And it also harkens back to something that you said earlier, which is I want to be a yes.
Yeah.
I think with Gender Amplified, there's so much no in music.
Yeah.
I am certainly in a season of no myself, right? Even when you've had success, right? You can go through a whole no season again, right?
Yeah.
So what keeps you going, I think, is those handful of yeses along the way. And I like to shout out our mentor and mutual friend,
Big Dave Kutch.
esteemed mastering engineer Dave Kutch, who was my first
Yonkers'
yes.
very own.
I didn't know he's from Yonkers.
That's like a big fact about Dave Kutch that he's from Yonkers.
It makes sense. But I think the thing of it that I'm trying to bring up is that he was my first yes. I think I was like,
wow.
I think I was still in college.
I never heard you say that actually.
I think he was the first music business person. Everybody else had been like, you suck. Like I literally had one music lawyer was just kind of like,
names.
No. I don't even remember his name.
Good.
But he was just like, no, I don't know. Like you, mm-mm. But Dave was like, not only was he like, yes, but it was a type of yes where it was an active yes.
Yeah.
Like the yeses that you're talking about being able to help people, actively help people. An active yes is when somebody will do something for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And pay it forward.
Yeah.
And it may or may not come back, and they're really not concerned about that. They just wanted to pay it forward. And he was my first active yes in the business. And I think in a lot of ways set the tone for the activism and activist work that I've done since that time. It's something to be said for being able to be a person's first yes. And when it comes to music producers, women especially, gender expansive producers especially, when you get that first check that says, oh, somebody's paying me now, I hang my hat on that at Gender Amplified. We get people paid.
Yeah, I love that.
And that, I want to do as much of that, because what it does, it's not about the money, because that's automatically spent sometimes as soon as they get it.
Yeah.
You get a $7,000 check or whatever. That's bills, that's equipment, that it's already spent. But what it does for you in terms of faith
Yeah.
is priceless.
Yeah.
And that is a check you'll be able to continue to cash over and over again, because you'll be able to build the confidence off of that cornerstone. You know, well, if somebody paid me one time, they'll pay me again, right? I don't care how many times I have to hear no. I got that check from Gender Amplified that one time through whatever partnership that we did, or whatever licensing opportunity that we provided, or whatever, library that we sold music to on behalf of producers, or whatever we did. Somebody can say, somebody paid me for this once, and they'll pay me for it again.
Yeah.
And this is confirmation that I'm on the right path. We actually had a producer once who quit her day job and was like, I'm doing music full time. And now she's a big deal.
Cool.
Like a super big deal.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
She was like, Gender Amplified was my first check, and that kept me going after I quit my job.
Yeah.
I was like, see, faith is built. Like, it's not, faith needs to be fortified, I will say. The seeds 100%. Of it are always there, but those seeds need to be watered. And when you get an active yes, I think it actually does help a great deal. Chris, I want to wrap with a few questions to you about what's next for you. Like, you got some really exciting things going on. You got a play coming out, just sold a movie, like, what are you having faith for in this season, and what is on the horizon where you see the fruits of that belief system actually bearing?
Yeah, I appreciate it. The question, and again, like this is dope. This is dope. I really am grateful for being here, and I just for me, I mean, like, you know, shout out Josh Snows, DP and producer of my debut feature, which you're also going to be in, which we're shooting in August, right? This is the first movie that I've made by myself for real.
Congratulations.
And thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's called Pimp Shit, and it's gonna be it's the movie's crazy. It's the first movie that I'm kind of writing outside of the system, right? That this is just like
You're on your Spike Lee.
100%. Oh, I like that. And it really, it's Dave Kutch actually is a producer on it, and also it's Dave Kutch's acting debut. I wrote him a part kind of as as a version of himself. You know what I'm saying? And he really like this is me trying to combine all the worlds. You know, there's a lot of music business people in this movie. And I'm really excited about that. I'm also, the movie All-Star Cafe that I just sold to 101 Studios. I'm excited about that. And then I'm, you know, my play The Surgeon and Her Daughters goes up November 29th with Cult Core in New York. And so I guess I'm going to kind of move to New York in October for 3 months. And I'm trying to finish a record with you before then. You know what I'm saying? Because like I really think that, like, you know, people often say like that human beings they overestimate what they can accomplish in a year and underestimate what they can accomplish in 10.
Yeah.
And I feel like the past couple of years I've been fucked up, man. I've been like, yo, New Year's comes and I'm like, I didn't do it. Like, I'm not there. You know what I mean? And now I'm like, oh shit, everything's culminating.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, I've gotten a lot of, like I haven't really had a lot of yeses in music, maybe any, you know what I'm saying? And like Dave was the first guy to listen to the music, period. Because I paid to attend a session and I was like, what do you think? And he was like, of what? I was like, the songs, dude. He was like, oh, they're really good. And I was like, okay, cool. Cause like no one's ever heard them in the, like, I'm not really in the music. And you're like you and Dave and shout out Richie Beretta. I mean, now I have music industry friends, but I don't think I've like gotten a check from music. Right. So like when we were talking about like faith earlier, I'm like, my faith about music was just that I like doing it. You know, it was, I don't even know that I would call that faith. It was just like, I like this more than I like everything else. And I think that part of what like gave me my career in Hollywood was that I was coming at it from another, now I have all these accolades, right? You can point to Yale, you can point to NYU, all this stuff. And now I've like have business accolades in Hollywood. But again, like I was coming to this, I know you're not going to like this. Definitely doesn't like when I talk like this, but I was like coming to this in my head as like a failed musician in Hollywood. I was like, this shit didn't work out. I'm here doing this other shit. But then also like, and I was jealous of people who stayed, they didn't go to college, they just stayed on tour, right? But now I look at their careers and I go, oh, like my career is only possible because of the other stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Thank God the music's also good, because if you stop doing the music, then people are like, please stop bringing this up. You know what I mean? Like just write movie that's cool enough. You know what I mean? But like now I'm like, okay, like my faith is in y'all. It's in the community. It's in Josh Snows. It's in my wife. It's in my friend. My faith is like, because that you are all God's creatures and an extension of the thing. Like the great miracles in my life are the people in my life. You know what I mean? Like I thank God every day for you and for Josh, you know what I mean? And for Safi and all these people. And like, because of that, I'm able to now have these sort of culminating moments. Like, you know, the second I sold my second movie in Hollywood, I was like, now it's time to make one for no money. You know what I mean? So that I can see, okay, that's what would happen. That's what happens with a 101 Studios. That's what happens with an MGM. What does it look like when it's just me and Josh and you and Annalisa and whoever, you know what I'm saying? And so like, yeah. And now it's time to finish some records so that, you know, when the play comes out, I can sell this record. And like, you know, we have some other stuff that I can't talk about right now that's hopefully, you know, inshallah coming down the pipeline on the TV side. And if that all goes, I'm like, the music has to be ready, because this is so opportunity meets timing, right? Like our dear friend Reef Loretta, who's also a deep collaborator of ours, like he often talks about like black swan moments. And he was like, the other day, he was like, you know this talk, because y'all, you know, in the tech space, I don't really know what that means. I know the movie, but I guess a black swan moment is like something that, you know, can you define it? Do you know what black swan is in this talk? Or maybe, okay, so let me just, a black swan moment is like, from what I understand, like it's when something unexpected happens, right? Yeah. And you have to be ready to take advantage of that, right? So it's the talent meets timing thing, right? So it's like, if you meet Dr. Dre tomorrow and you don't have your record done, you couldn't plan for the fact that you were going to meet Dr. Dre at the donut shop, right? But if now you have this moment, he's like, let me hear the record, and you don't have it, now you're fucked up, you know? So like, to me,
Missed opportunity.
Exactly. So like, what I am looking forward to in the next couple months is like tapping in with you to finish these Chris and Jesse records, finish some of our records together, and just like get the stuff done with some of the records that I made, you know, shout out Richie Beretta with him a couple years ago, and just be ready. Because I mean, like, even like the play The Surgeon and Her Daughters that Cole Core is doing, right? I did it's a small theater. I did the math. I was like, 3,000 people are going to see this play. So I'm going to try to sell 3,000 records.
Yeah.
But you have to have the record done, you know? So I'm ready to like finish these joints. I'm ready to make this movie independently, and then get ready for the sort of corporate Hollywood season to start again in top of 2026. And inshallah, we're in production for these movies that I'm writing right now, and for some of this TV stuff. And yeah, I'm looking forward to culminating that. And also, I just finished this novel, Muses. We're trying to sell that. If any book agents are reading.
Did you say you don't do very much in a year?
Yeah. Well, but it's all
You were like,
taking
I
a
looked at it, I'm
lot.
like, what did I?
It's all, but here's the thing.
But it's also like, it's the training in the dark.
It's a training in the dark.
Yep,
It's a training in the dark.
Yes.
You know? And the dark is...
It's the writing. It's the, I mean, like, think about it. It's the...
It is. And it's like, it just...
Chris writes a feature a week.
That's not true. But I did write Pimp Shit in a week, because I was like...
No. He writes a feature in a week.
I write a lot.
So it's, I couldn't write a feature in a decade. So, I mean, not without Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Not without my girl. You know what I'm telling you, damn. But anyway, I feel that I want to pivot to Jess and give a little bit of time here. What are you having faith for in this season? What's coming? What should the people watching this be on the lookout for in your world?
Yeah, so I took a little bit of break's the wrong word, because like I've actually been working really hard on like
doesn't
certain
sound like
projects.
you take breaks
But I produced a lot less music in the last 6 months, because I wanted to focus on building some projects in the tech space that were specific to I think what I'm seeing happen with regards to AI.
Right.
I think that there's a lot of technology that people are really afraid of. And the hard part is like, it's already out of the bag, right? So like, I remember before MP3s and you know, that like Kazaa, and you have Napster, and all of a sudden no one's buying records and everyone was panicking. Like, no one's buying records. What do we do?
Right.
So I'm building, so I have a couple of theories I'm proving out, but I'm doing a test case with something called AI Music Labs. And I just launched it. So it's, and if you go to my socials, I'll have it in my bio. But it's under what we're calling Creative Group. And the goal is to build a collective and to prove out a model where a musician can have a treasury of their own. So essentially...
What does that mean, a treasury?
Yeah, so utilizing blockchain technology, essentially, like you can have your own currency. You can have, you know, NFTs kind of have a bad name around them, but the technology that is NFT is actually quite elegant in terms of how you can reward people for participating in your music, how you can give them access to it. But there's a whole way that you could really run your own economy around your art. And so that's the goal, is like, how do I create a system where we de-risk the fact that as a musician you have to sell records and that no one's buying records, but they're streaming music and the streamers are now giving you less per stream, right? So how do we utilize technology to create a robust system? And it is like the technology part, but it's also like, this goes back to the politics, is the governance side, right? Like, how do we teach people how to have a launch pad, but to build community around the thing, right? Because you have that 1,000 true fans, right? That's all you really need, is 1,000 true fans. So how do we use 13? Yeah, but how do you engage them, right? To like be on the journey with you. And I think that that's something we can do with emergent technology. So that's my main focus, and has been to build. And we're getting really close. We're going to do a whole test case with an artist that's an AI artist, just so that we don't mess with their livelihood too much. It's a test case.
Right.
And then the goal is to what's called open source it, so that we're going to publish it and everyone who wants to can have access to it. And, you know, I'm going to set up a foundation so that we can help launch people if they want. But I also want people I want to teach people how to fish for themselves.
Right, how to fish for themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, because equity is the future, right? And also, you know, owning masters and publishing rights for a long time. I mean, you're seeing really major artists offloading their catalogs, extremely valuable catalogs, because of this cash flow issue. And if you kind of provide another means of having economic stability, I think you'd find artists wanting to hold on to their catalogs much longer than they currently are.
Yeah, and teaching artists how to be their own business. That's really what it is teaching them without, you say the word business and it's hard because like some creatives are like, and I think that is also part of the education is like, when you said you cut checks for people and that felt really good with Gender Amplified, like that's just it, right? Like it's a fallacy that you shouldn't be compensated for your art. And, you take that money and you do something good with it and you create more art or you hire other people or you build something that now you employ people around you. And so I think that's the other part is dispelling that myth that like a lot of artists have that I think does keep them small and does prevent them from being able to have a livelihood is, it's for the art. I don't want to touch the money. Like, there is a part of this ecosystem that everyone can benefit from it. So, it's part tech and part ideology that I think needs to be worked on.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, this has been inspiring. I want to thank Chris Gabo and Jess Furman one more time for being here today. If you don't know about Gender Amplified, please check us out at genderamplified.org. We are a nonprofit organization that, like I mentioned before, is dedicated to the advancement and development of women and gender expansive music producers across genres. We're also very focused on showing the connection between STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and the arts. So we do a lot of stuff. We're based out of New York City. This is our first episode of our podcast, Sticky. I want to thank our guests one more time.
Thank you, Ebony.
Thank you, Jess, for letting
Chris,
us next to you.
this was great. Great to meet you and hear everything you have going on.
We're neighbors, so.
We're neighbors.
Don't ask where we live. But we are neighbors.
I was just about to give it away.
Yeah, thank God. We live in,
We live like a few blocks.
We live in a place called Los Angeles.
In Rotterdam, Rotterdam, Deutschland. And just cut other stuff in so that no one stocks,
Listen, we live in LA. And it is a sunny space, which is why I felt like we needed this backdrop to accentuate the Los Angeles of it all. But thanks everybody for watching this, and please stay tuned for our next episode.
Woo! Coming in here, the energy was already just open.
Even when we had the intro session, I was like, oh, it's going to be a fun day because you're around like-minded individuals who all want to create something good, something groovy.
I'm glad you're at the Control Room series and apply to our applications.
We started just like listening to music that everyone kind of put out or has worked on so that you kind of get a vibe of like who you're working with and understanding, okay, do we want to start something from scratch? Someone have a beat or a project that we kind of want to build on.
I think y'all voices are really complementing each other.
Yeah.
You always want to have a producer in the room, a songwriter, a top liner, someone who does beat making. We also want to encourage other people to test out new roles that they haven't necessarily been given the opportunity to play really in a studio.
I felt like I was in Willy Wonka's factory this weekend, like being able to touch vintage gear that still works, that still sounds crazy.
The process becomes a lot easier when you're pooling resources, when we have someone like Mo who we can come reach out to for the technical points. And then we have Jewel in there who's, teaching us about the voice compression and different plugins that we can use.
Everything here is so structured. Everything here is like we feel safe.
I don't know, being here has been a breath of fresh air.